where truth lies between shadows and light, where anchors hold you down and eagles dare to rise above. We dive into the untold stories that shape us all. Sit tight, listen close. This is Anchors and Eagles with your host, Adam Facenda. The views and discussions in this podcast are for entertainment purposes only.
Well, there we go. I want to say, first off, thank you for tuning in to Anchors and Eagles today. You have no clue what this week has been like for me. I have tried numerous times to shoot this podcast, and on top of that, we do not have Geronimo or Jolie. Unfortunately, they had to take care of some things in their lives, family matters down here in Florida, and they won't be on this episode. And hopefully we can get on the next episode together, because this has been trying. I never thought I would say I would miss a producer slash Jolie so much in my life. I tried to share videos. I tried to bring so much content into the past 3 times I tried to shoot this podcast that I actually gave up about 2 hours ago. So right now it is March 11th, Wednesday at 8:20 at night. And we usually shoot these on Sunday or Monday. And I just couldn't get together. I literally spent 3 hours doing the edits, and then they turned out to just disappear. What I mean by that is all the audio from the actual footage that I brought in to just go over, it was kind of more of like how can I say, reactions, because I figured that's what I could try out while these guys are taking care of stuff. I haven't talked to them much this week, just a little update. But please, if you can send some positive vibes, some prayers, whatever you can to them and their family, it's much appreciated. I've prayed for them every night since I knew they were coming down. And, everything's in God's hands. I always say that, everything happens for a reason. Some people say that. I now quantify that it's all in God's hands. I mean, I've had so much happen in the past 12 months. And I will say, if I didn't find myself in a church about a year and a half ago, somewhere around there, I don't know if I'd even be living in a house right now, to be honest with you. And this is not going to be about a religion. I was thinking about it today. On the 23rd of February, I had my 1-year anniversary of being baptized. And I didn't celebrate much because of a personal thing between myself and my creator, or our creator, I should say. But it just hit me today. If I didn't believe that everything was going to work out and put it in God's hands, I don't think things would have worked out so well. And I'm not saying they're perfect right now, right? My financial situation's pretty bleak because of the economy still, and now it's going into wars and whatnot. I had a very low week mentally, and I just said, what am I doing? It always works out. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine not too long ago, Steven, and I think it was about 5-6 months ago. And it's like, sometimes you just got to remind yourself, you've gone through so much in your life. I don't think anyone that's listening to this, or the people under my voice right now, haven't had something super traumatic happen or something crazy happen in their lives. I think we all have, and we've all gone through it. And most of all, the ones of us that have gotten through it, I think we take for granted that we got through some hard times because there's always something new coming. St. Patty's Day, which is in about 6 days. When you're listening to this, if you're listening to the day it drops, it'll be 5 days. Will be the date that my father passed away. And that has been the most traumatic thing in my life. And I lived through that. And I believe at this point, we're at 18 years now. It's crazy to think. And tomorrow, when this actually airs, will be the 13th year of my mom passing away. And if you've lost someone recently or within this past year, something that was taught to me a long time ago was it's always the first. When I lost my stepdad, which was before my father, I believe it was a couple years before my father, my mom said that she was warned it's the firsts, right? The first holiday, the first birthday, the first Christmas, something monumental. The firsts always hurt because you think about them. My father dying on St. Patty's Day kind of sucks because every year everyone's celebrating, and every year I tried not to celebrate, even when I drank, because I knew I would just turn into a crying baby at a bar and like, look at this face. It ain't so pretty. It ain't pretty when it cries. That's for sure. It's very, very disgusting. Um, but yeah, I just never went to bars. So every year I get reminded that my father passed away on St. Patty's Day. And one of the things I always tell people, it's crazy. The day that he passed away, I was out at a bar with my friend, Pat Joyce, and a bar that I never really go to. I've frequented a couple times for punk rock shows, but I never really went there to drink. But they had this huge St. Patty's Day um, extravaganza, if you will. And for some reason that night I decided I wasn't going to meet up with anybody. I was just going to go out and have fun and just, walk from, I think it was called McGuire's or something like that, to downtown and just roam around. I'm out there with Pat. I think Pete Gordon was there too. And we're talking, we're having a good time. And I mean, it's like 7:00 and everything's just awesome. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. I look over, I'm like, that lady looks like my mom. And it was. Not only was it my mom, but it was my aunt and my uncle. And they come walking over. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I just drinking with my buddies." Mind you, I never really went out and drinking with my mom, or my aunt or uncle, at that matter. But they came up, and my aunt and my uncle are my blood relatives. They are my parents' best friends when I was a kid, like when I was 9 years old. So they're my aunt and my uncle. And I said to them, it'd be crazy. Well, let me rewind. I said, "What are you doing here?" And my aunt and uncle and my mom said, "Well, we used to come here all the time. We're out and about." I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is crazy. What an event." I said, "Well, how crazy would it be if Dad walked in?" And Dad wasn't going to walk in because Dad was in a hospital for hours waiting to get surgery done. And he was in so much pain that he wasn't able to remember my phone number to have the hospital call me. When I got to the hospital after he passed away, I realized that he had kept writing his own phone number down. He was in so much pain. So I've had the same phone number for years. I mean, I still have the same number that day he died to now. And that first year of my dad passing away, I was a mess. Me and my brother were just a mess. I'm surprised we survived that first year. Oh, we were drinking so hard. My hero, and the man that I feared so much, the only man I ever feared in the world, was gone. And who am I now? Crazy. Super crazy. But what I took from that is so much more. In our faith, Jesus gave up everything for us. He died on the cross. He died for us, for our sins, so that way we can go into heaven. And about 6-7 months ago, maybe less, I was talking to my brother. And I mean, I was a tattooer, yeah, but I was just a maniac. My father and I had been talking about opening up a tattoo shop, but we just, he didn't make it. So my brother didn't know about this. So I taught my brother how to tattoo. So we're talking the other day, and it's crazy that moment in our lives completely devastated us. We had no clue what we were going to do without our father, and now I'm the oldest of the family. So I feel I have to step up and, take charge. We're talking, and it's crazy because we came to the conclusion if our father hadn't died, we might not be alive ourselves. So in actuality, him passing away gave us so much more life and brought my brother and I closer together to the point where I taught him how to tattoo, and he owns a business and he has children, and he treats his children so much better than our parents treated us. My father was no saint. I've had people say to me before, you talk about your dad and you love him so much, but then you hear the other stories of like how he treated you and your brother and your sisters and your mother. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's the dad I got, you know? And now I have a new father. Well, I never have it's not really a new father, I guess I should say. I guess my father in heaven is amazing. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And maybe we don't understand why that reason is. So I had a client just recently say something to me that it's the universe. And I often think, well, what created the universe? So there has to be a creator. I think a lot of people get tied up with the word God, thinking that it's, what we see maybe on a drawing on a wall, or elderly man, or I think it's something we can't even wrap our mind around. But I do believe everything happens for a reason. And this past year, I lost a lot, gave up a lot, but then I just let it all go. What's going to happen is going to happen, and God's going to take over, and we'll see what happens. Because at the end of this, there's an end. And I just want to be present. I had a video that I brought up that I wanted to share with everybody, and maybe I'll just share it on our Instagram so you guys can see it this week. It's about a man talking about how there is no past and there is no future and there is no now. That time doesn't really exist, because even when I'm saying now, it's gone. So if you want to live on that timeline of a linear timeline, then you're self-defeating in a way. And it really like opened my mind to, I say it all the time, just be here, be present. Sometimes I go to the dog park. Well, sometimes I go to the dog park almost every day, or I go to a park every day with my dogs, Miles and Mia, and I meet up with Katie, and we take all herd animals as well. Or sometimes we just all go together in the same car. But we always go to the park. And when I go to a park, yeah, it's for them. It's for me as well. And sometimes I just lost looking at the trees. And I know that this is going to sound weird, but you ever look at a tree and like just think of how much we are alike? I just bear with me. A tree has branches and leaves and feels and moves and sways and all this other stuff. And it's so calming watching a breeze blow through a tree. And some things are going to fall off. Some leaves that it's outgrown are going to fall off, but it's going to continue to go on. And it's being fed by the sun, and it needs to be watered. And its roots are growing in the earth. All things that we need as well. We need things that grow from the earth, right? We need oxygen. We need water. And right now, Miles is getting my attention. So if you're watching me look down, that's what I'm looking at. But I get lost in these trees, and they're just so calming. And then a bird will fly into a tree, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Well, I'm like, wow, like they get to live in there. They get to be free and fly around. And I just get lost in those moments. It's kind of like being a kid again. Like being a kid was, you're just living in the moment constantly with your friends on the bikes, riding around the neighborhood, doing whatever, getting into trouble. Like, had to be home by the time the light went on, and now kids nowadays, they don't even have that. They're just glued to a video game or some app on a phone, or I don't know. I see these younger people and I feel sorry for them. There's a big thing I watch all the time and I sometimes share on Instagram. It's the kids of the 90s with this AI stuff. And man, I get emotional. I get really emotional through this. It's funny because I get emotional because I remember those times, and that's in the past. And I can never go back there. I can never change anything from the past, nor what I would of that time. I turned 51 on March 3rd. And I wouldn't give up any of those times in the 80s or the 90s. They were so great. I'm still friends with one person from that era, and I got to spend Christmas with them, and we were just talking about the old times, screwing around with go-karts, just terrorizing a neighborhood, just having fun in old Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I've been in Fort Lauderdale since I was about 9 years old. And I was just reminiscing, and it's just like, I wonder if the kids of the 2000s, the 2010s and the 2020s, if they're going to look back on life and say, man, it's so, that time was so great. Because right now, there's so much stuff going on. Like when we were kids, pedophiles, like that wasn't even a thing you thought of. You thought of creepy men, but it wasn't something that was like in the news everywhere. Epstein files. These kids are growing up with Epstein files. These kids are growing up with a war, a religious war. Because at the end of it, the war, I really do feel that it's a lot about a religious stance. Now, these people that are over there, this regime, I will say they're extremists, and maybe they've taken this Bible completely literal, or maybe they just don't understand that was of a different time. But some of the things that they write in, some of the things that I've learned from their Bible is, it's not good. It's not healthy. I watch these videos of them saying, if you leave, if you're in a Muslim state and you leave our religion, you can be put to death. And I'm like, what? Like we have it so made here in the US. It's just amazing. It's amazing that people are like that out there. I had a friend, actually, he's been on our podcast, Edwin, and he said, and this was probably like 10 years ago when ISIS was around. And he said, we are thinking of fighting these people that are barbaric with conventional minds, with modern day minds, where we understand that you die and there's an uncertainty when you die, and that there is for them, it's barbaric, chopping off heads, beating people to death with their hands. And in our culture, people don't do that. I mean, they do. They're sick. They're very sick individuals, but we don't go around chopping people's heads off because of their religion or what country they're from. That's just not how America works. And I think of that to this day right now. Right now, we're trying to fight a war with a group of people that when they die, it's a good thing, right? Like these kids, I sometimes think with the unaliving themselves, they think they're just going to respawn. They're going to respawn somewhere else. And like, start all over again. I mean, if that were true, I think a lot of people unalive themselves, just restart. But I don't think that's why we're here. I think we're here to experience love, experience life, we experience struggle, experience all these emotions that we have. Because one thing I do take in consideration is every time I'm watching a video on YouTube about near-death experiences, they all say the same thing. They don't feel anything. They don't have any worry. They don't have any stress or anything like that. And if we didn't have those things, we wouldn't be able to appreciate that afterwards. I know it sounds a little weird. This one's a weird one. This is what you get. This is what you get when Jolie and Geronimo aren't here to help on the podcast. A lot of thoughts in my head. The videos that I brought up that I wanted to show you were intriguing, but I found myself kind of like just not being this person right now. I was very monotone, and I don't know if my head was more worried about them than worried about producing a show for you guys. So this one will be short. I want to make sure that everyone understands it's not easy to do this podcast thing, especially alone. And we want to start doing them live. So that takes a little bit of you guys tuning in. liking, subscribing, just getting on board. When we go live, you're going to be able to interject with us. So we have some people that when I put posts up on, you probably heard me say this before, on TikTok and Instagram, but mostly TikTok, people want to chime in and say stuff. And I'm a firm believer of bring receipts. That's why I try to bring videos and stuff like that. Like, it's almost if they challenge us. Like, I think one guy said that we're idiots. And I know that's trolling because I like to troll. Trust me, I like to troll people on these social media platforms. But I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room. I am the most curious person in the room, that's for sure. And I'm willing to hear both sides. I've always been willing to hear both sides. That was another video that I had. It was about hearing both sides. Back in the day, we did this thing called critical thinking. And one person would do or explain their thoughts on something. Another person would explain their thoughts on another, and they would talk about it and might open up minds. I remember being a kid saying, if I change one person's mind, especially a Nazi, if I change one person's mind, then I've done what I need to do here. If I've helped one person in the world, then I've done exactly what I need to do here. I've lived a full life. And I've lived a full life over and over and over again. I've helped so many people in the world, and I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, sometimes I've helped people and I don't even realize it. Years later, they come up to me, man, remember that time you told me, X, Y, and Z? It changed my life. And then I sometimes had to pretend like I knew exactly what they were talking about. I was drunk, just rambling on like I am right now. And it changed their life. And it's just amazing. I think being there for other people in the right time, it all happens for a reason. Like I was saying earlier, we just get planted in someone's life at the right time, but we have to look up, make eye contact, say hello, engage with each other. I'm guilty of it too. You'll see me out and about in my phone, just head down, not paying attention to anything. Ridiculous. Why would I do that? There's so much beauty. There's so much going on in the world that I want to experience. I haven't experienced everything yet. I doubt any of you have experienced all the things that you want to experience. This podcast started off, or I rebranded this podcast at one point because of men's mental health. And I used to get women saying, what about women? I'm like, that's exactly the point of the men's mental health. But at the end of the day, this is entertainment for people. I like conspiracy theories. It takes your mind off the bad stuff. And just recently, I was watching a video with a gentleman that went missing. His name is General Neil McClaslin. It's alarming, they say, because he's the one that knows the most about all the alien stuff. And he just went missing. Kind of convenient when our president just said, I want them to release everything. I guess he's like the highest in that whole field of aliens. And on top of that, he knows the most. He has the most clearance of any other general out there. And he went missing. They're saying that he was a very healthy man. He was an outdoorsy man. He literally the day before before he went missing, or let's say dark, because they're also implying that maybe they've made him go dark because they don't want any of this stuff to be released. That he rode a 60-mile bike ride the day before. So he's tip-top health. Very, very peculiar. I think that's very peculiar. We were joking on the last podcast about how, like they're going to release this alien stuff just in time for the Epstein files. And Geronimo said, well, that's why we're not going to the moon. It's because the Epstein files are on the moon. It seems like there's this cat and mouse between the two, and they're sprinkling a little war on us. And money is devalued like nobody's business. It's insane. It's all happening for a reason, I guess, right? I was just watching another podcast with Sean Ryan that I often think about the Roman Empire constantly. And they were saying that the only way you can stop the world from crashing, or this gentleman was saying it, I forgot his name. They could have saved their economy by revaluing their dollar. And because we left the gold standard, that's how they destroyed the dollar. And I guess Ron Paul said, in order to fix what's going on, they're not going to like the leader of and how he gets it done. And this was something that Ron Paul said a long time ago, I guess. And I think we're here. And I don't like what's going on. I mean, if anyone threatens America, I'm down with, America having to do what they have to do. Some people think they're just false threats, but kids are throwing bombs and groups of people right now, and they're talking about sleeper cells. And I just saw another headline just before I jumped on that they're telling this could be crap because it wasn't on X and I didn't have a chance to go and verify it. But so just guys, it's just entertainment. It's not facts. I don't know the facts. That they're telling the police in California to watch out because there might be drones hitting their coast, like a terrorist act. I think of drones. I think of these little tiny drones, right? But I guess there's big drones too. But you can just attach anything you want to one of those little drones, right? I mean, I think the Ukrainian people have been doing that and battling a Russian army with just small little drones. Food for thought. What's going to happen here? Be vigilant. Keep your eyes open. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I don't think it's a bunch of crap. I don't think it's psyop stuff. But I do know that the best way to control the human population is fear. And if you're busy fearing everything and in your phone and worried about what tomorrow is going to bring, you can't stand 1 second in now. If that makes sense. Go to a park. Duck around. Go to the beach. Feel the sand on your toes. Go hang out with some friends. Go play pinball. That's what I've been doing recently. And I love it. Takes me back to being a kid. Do whatever makes you happy right now because we are not promised tomorrow. And we are not promised tomorrow on our timeline. And there are some people out there that are running this world that are just going to make decisions without our say so or our opinions. And it could change our lives. So just be in the moment. That's all I can say. You're depressed? Call a friend. If you're uncertain about something, call me. I'm always here to listen. You can write us on DM us, whatever you want to do. If you don't know me, life is very short. And it shouldn't be spent alone. And we should forgive the people that have done us wrong. It's one thing that I've learned. If my creator can forgive me, then why can't I forgive myself? And if you can forgive yourself, you can forgive anybody. And I know there's some things that seem like you can't forgive them for, but if you're holding on to that past with a death grip, it's just wearing you down too. My father used to say, don't let things rent space in your head. And at this age, I'm finally understanding it. So I think he was telling me this at this age too. I miss my parents. But I'll get to see them again. I hope this doesn't get too dark. This is what seems to always happen whenever I do these solo. I mean, it starts off really positive. I get high energy, and then boom, I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Let's leave on a high. And good news, they're still pushing through with this anti-aging stuff, which I'm really pumped on. And it's crazy how many vaccines, well, I hate to even use the word vaccines, how many cures are out there for common diseases and the ivermectin and all this other stuff. I mean, how crazy right now, at the same time as people are dying in another country, there's other people trying to make sure that we live very long lives and very healthy lives. This is not balance. This is just pure madness. This is the greatest book ever written. This movie is awesome. And there's tons of chapters to it. So don't give up on this one scene or this one episode. Keep coming back for more. And I'm not just talking about the podcast. I'm talking about life. At any moment, things can change. This week, I was worried about making $1, scrubbing 2 together. And I now have so much work to do this weekend. And I'm so excited. And I wanted to make sure that I got in this podcast, even if it's going to be about 20 or 30 minutes long, just to show up for you, the 5 or 6 people that listen. I don't know. But just showing up. That's what I want to do. Just show up. If you can show up for yourself, you can show up for anybody. Sometimes it's easier to show up for other people than it is for yourself. So I guess technically I'm showing up for myself right now too. Guys, thank you so much for bearing through this rant and rave. And hopefully it's helped some of you guys. And I do mean this. If you're struggling through anything and you don't know if there's light at the end of the tunnel, you can always DM me or text me if you have my phone number. I'll try to reach out to you as soon as possible. If I'm working, I'm working. But if not, try to be there for you guys. Miles had to get in on the screen, you know? Miles, you gotta look over here. Oh, look at this boy. Look at this boy. He's such a good boy. Well, Miles wants to say thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe. Makes him happy too. He had to get in here just for one minute. Thanks again, guys. Until next time, this is Adam Facenda from Anchors and Eagles. And send a prayer out to Jolie and Geronimo and their family. Peace.